Most people don't live, they perform, they chase deadlines, hit targets, smile on cue, and somewhere along the way, they forget they were meant to be alive, not just functional, until something unexpected happens. A crack in the schedule, a funeral, a mirror at the wrong angle, and suddenly the lie starts to unravel. You thought you had time, I did too. Time to say what mattered, time to fix what I broke, time to become who I promised myself I'd be. But time isn't generous, and it doesn't hand out second chances. It moves forward without apology, and it doesn't care if you're ready. We like to imagine life as a long story, but the truth is most of us won't get to write the last chapter, but we just run out of pages. Seneca said, "Begin at once to live and count each separate day as a separate life." That's not a motivational quote, that's a warning, says, because time doesn't care how busy you were. It doesn't care that you meant to start next month. Time is merciless, and regret lives where action should have been. Let me tell you about Dashrath Manji. He lost his wife because the closest hospital was behind a mountain. Most people would have grieved and moved on. He didn't. He picked up a hammer and chisel, and for 22 years he carved through that mountain by hand. They laughed at him until the road appeared. Not because he had the time, but because he made the time matter. And that's the difference. Most of us are waiting for the right moment. But the right moment doesn't exist. Only now does. You think you're safe because the calendar has empty boxes, but that's not safety. That's a countdown. So, let me ask you, if 5 years from now everything changed, what would you regret not doing today? That question isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. Because time isn't your enemy, but believing you have more of it than you do, that's the lie that steals everything. And the clock isn't waiting, it's already moving. So the real question is, are you? Regret doesn't announce itself, it slips in quietly, in the pauses between conversations, in the silence after a name you don't say anymore, in the question you never asked because you were too afraid of the answer. By the time you reach midlife, regret has shape. It's no longer just about mistakes, it's about absence, what you didn't do, what you didn't say, who you didn't become. You won't regret falling on your face. You'll regret standing still. Psychologists say regret in midlife shifts from action to inaction. From "why did I do that?" to "why didn't I try?" Stefan Zweig wrote, "1,000 years will not recover something lost in a single hour." And yet we keep losing hours to scrolling, to pretending, to waiting for permission we don't need. There was a moment I'll never forget. A man, mid-50s, successful, admired, said quietly, "I thought I had more time." It wasn't dramatic, it was devastating. Because I saw what he meant. He didn't mean life was ending. He meant the version of life he wanted had been postponed so many times it no longer felt reachable. That's what regret sounds like. It's not screaming. It's the dull ache of knowing you had the pen and still didn't write the page. Tolstoy captured it best in The Death of Ivan Ilyich. A man who lived the life he was told to live, dutiful, proper, admirable. And on his deathbed he asked, "What if my whole life has been wrong?" That line isn't fiction, it's a mirror. And if you're brave enough to look into it now, you can stop that question from becoming yours. So what are you pretending doesn't matter anymore? The dream that still taps you on the shoulder when you're alone, and the words you rehearse in your mind but never say out loud, the version of yourself you buried to keep the peace. Go there. You don't need a new life. You need to stop abandoning the one already trying to find you. Regret becomes toxic only when you stay frozen. But movement, even the smallest kind, changes everything. You don't need to erase the past. You just need to stop letting it dictate what comes next. Because one day you'll sit with yourself, and there'll be no more excuses, no more distractions, no more someday, just you and the choices you made. Make them count now, so you don't have to whisper later, "I thought I had more time." There's a storm that begins in midlife, but it doesn't rage outside. It rises from within. It's not the chaos around you, it's the silence inside you that starts to get louder. The moments when success doesn't soothe you, when the apology doesn't come, when the old tricks, distraction, anger, withdrawal, stop working. You've kept it together for decades, but now you're starting to feel it. Not weakness, not failure, just weight, because no one ever taught you how to carry it. You were trained to push through, to man up, to stay strong, but they never told you that real strength isn't in what you carry, it's in how you carry it. What if the problem isn't that you feel too much, but that you never learned how to hold what you feel? We build entire lives avoiding this question. We overwork, overshare, overcompensate. We become brilliant at looking fine and exhausted from pretending. But eventually you have to face the truth. You're not being broken by life. You're being broken by the way you respond to it. Daniel Goleman calls it emotional intelligence. Jung called it integration, bringing the shadow into the light. The Stoics called it mastery of the self. Different languages, same truth. You want to be truly powerful at 50? Then learn this: anger is not control, silence is not peace, and repression is not resilience. Real strength is sitting with your sadness without making it someone else's problem. It's holding your rage like fire in your hands without burning everything down. It's knowing your triggers so well they can't puppet you anymore. Let me ask you something. How many of your deepest regrets weren't caused by the event, but by your reaction to it? The friendship you lost, the bridge you torched, the door you slammed shut, not because the situation was unfixable, but because the version of you in that moment didn't know how to stay calm in the storm. There's a quote I keep coming back to. Man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he is both the marble and the sculptor. Midlife gives you the tools, but you've got to pick them up. You've got to start carving, not at the world, at yourself. You don't need to be harder, you need to be honest. The part of you that shuts down when someone disappoints you, look at it. The habit of escaping through blame or silence, confront it. The belief that being vulnerable means being weak, unlearn it, because the people you love don't need a stronger version of you, they need a truer one. And once you master your inner world, you stop needing the outer world to cooperate. You don't become immune to pain, you just stop letting it control you. That's not emotional control, that's emotional freedom. And once you taste it, you'll never settle for performance again. You climb the ladder, you hit the goals, you win the game. And then silence. Not the kind that soothes you, the kind that unsettles you. Because you're standing at the top of the mountain, everyone told you to climb, and you're wondering why it doesn't feel like a rival. Why it feels more like a room with no windows. No one warns you that success can feel like grief. You mourn the version of yourself that thought this would fix everything. You got what you were chasing, but somewhere along the way, you forgot why you were running. Carl Jung wrote, "What was great in the morning will be little at evening," and suddenly it makes sense. The things that once thrilled you now leave you empty. The trophies feel hollow, the spotlight feels heavy, and your own applause doesn't reach your soul anymore. This isn't failure, it's awakening. You're not broken, you're being rerouted. David Brooks calls it the second mountain. The first one is built on ego, status, approval, ambition, but the second, it's carved from meaning. The first mountain says be impressive, the second says be useful, but here's the catch. Before you can climb the second mountain, you often have to fall off the first. Raymond Chandler did. He lost his job at 44, no safety net, no clear plan, and in the rubble, he found a blank page. At 51, he published The Big Sleep. Not because life made room, because he finally claimed it. The valley between mountains is not failure, it's formation. It's where you trade identity for authenticity. It's where the applause fades, and you start hearing your own voice again. Sometimes it's not even a fall, sometimes it's just a shift. You wake up and realize you're done proving, you're done pretending, you're done hustling for a kind of approval that never really filled you. And now you crave different things: peace, purpose, presence. Diana Nyad swam 110 miles from Cuba to Florida at age 64. 5 failed attempts behind her: sharks, jellyfish, aging bones. She didn't do it to prove she was still young. She did it because she had unfinished work in her soul. She climbed her second mountain through the water. And maybe that's where you are right now. Not lost, just transitioning. Not finished, just starting again, wiser. So if you're in that quiet place where the view isn't what you hoped for and the climb no longer excites you, good. That's the turning point, because the second mountain doesn't care what people think. It only asks, who are you really, when no one's clapping? And when you climb it, you don't just reach a peak. You return to yourself. Legacy. We talk about it like it's something waiting for us at the end, as if it's a statue built by time, unveiled only when we're gone. But legacy isn't a final chapter. It's written in the margins, in the quiet, in the choices no one claps for. It's not what you leave behind. It's what you live right now. We imagine it'll be the big things people remember. But that's not how memory works. They'll forget your job title, they'll forget what kind of car you drove, but they won't forget how you made them feel when they were unsure, or whether you picked up the phone when they were scared. The truth is, most legacies are invisible, and the people building the most powerful ones don't even know it. There's a woman whose name you've never heard. She taught third grade in a small town for over 40 years. No fame, no books, no awards, but generations walked out of her classroom believing they mattered, because she treated every child like they were worth believing in. And decades later, they still talk about her. That's legacy. Not carved into marble, carved into people. Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But becoming who you truly are isn't a personal project, it's a public offering. Because when you stop performing, you give everyone around you permission to breathe. We've been trained to think of legacy as recognition, but the real legacy is how you made people feel when there was nothing in it for you. It's what your child says about you when they describe what kindness looks like. It's what your friend remembers when they're at their lowest and they think he would have understood. It's the morning your partner wakes up and still feels safe because of how you treated them the night before. You don't need to go viral. You need to be present. You don't need to be admired. You need to be honest. We keep waiting to become something memorable. But maybe the most memorable thing we can be is someone who shows up with love, with integrity, with presence, especially when no one's watching. So ask yourself, what will they remember because of you? Not what you built, not what you bought, but who you helped become themselves by simply being yourself. That's legacy, and it starts right now. In the hallway conversation, in the honest apology, in the habit of showing up for people without needing to be celebrated for it. You're already leaving a legacy. The only question is, are you proud of it? Because long after your name fades, what you chose to stand for, how you made people feel, how you loved when it was hard, that's what they'll carry. And if you're wondering whether it's too late to change that, it's not. You've performed long enough. Now it's time to live, for real, for others, for you. At some point, the questions change. It's no longer, what do people think of me? It's, do I even recognize myself anymore? The applause gets quieter, the noise gets old, and all that's left is a whisper you can't ignore. There's more than this, not more to prove, more to become. This is the turning point. Not the end, not the crisis, the opening. Because for years you've been performing, smiling on cue, doing what's expected, checking every box and calling it a life. But here's what no one tells you. You don't have to keep doing that. You can stop now. You can put the script down and pick up your life. You don't need to start over. You just need to start honestly. No more waiting for clarity. Clarity doesn't come before the step. It comes from the step. No more waiting to feel ready. Readiness is a decision, not a condition. No more convincing yourself that it's too late. It's not. It never was. The only thing too late is the story that says you missed your chance, because here's what's real. You're still here, still breathing, still burning, which means the story isn't finished. So, well, what are you going to do with that? What would your life look like if you stopped waiting? What would you create? Who would you become? What part of you would finally be allowed to speak? You don't need permission. You don't need perfection. You just need to move toward the life that's been calling you from the quiet. And maybe for the first time, you don't need to impress anyone. You just need to be true. So here's your moment, right here, right now. If this voice found something in you, something quiet or bruised or buried, then speak back. Tell me, what's one life lesson you had to learn the hard way? Drop it in the comments. Not for me, for the next person who's scrolling, searching, and hoping they're not the only one. And if you're ready to walk the second half awake, subscribe, because the best part of your story starts now.